computer and hopefully, okay. Hi, Shellie. Hi, Kerri. Nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you
Hey.
for being a guest on Veterans Helping Veterans TV. And the first question I ask all the guests is which branch of the military were you in? And when did you join? And what did you do? So we'll start with you, Shellie, and then we'll go to Kerri.
My name is Shellie Willis. I served in the United States Army. I joined way long ago. It was 1988. I served 25 years in the Army, and I was a quartermaster first. Worked in the quartermaster corps, and then I changed my MOS to finance. So I am a senior financial manager with a specialty in acquisitions and controllership.
Very good. So what rank did you retire as?
Master Sergeant E8.
Good for you. That's awesome. Um, I don't know if you heard the dogs barking in the background. Okay, I have to put this on pause for a minute. So give me a minute. I have a dog and he wants to go play with his buddy. So give me just a second. So I'm hitting pause on the.
So hi, I'm Kerri Jeter, and I served in the U.S. Army as well. I went from E3 to O3 in my 12-year career. I had one deployment, which was 18 months from startup to the time I got back home from 2012 to 13. I started out as an HR adjutant, human resources specialist, and leveled up to I branched finance actually, which was I've been chasing Shellie for my career. I was always a little bit behind her at duty stations and places like that. But and then I also became a qualified public affairs officer, and then ended my career as a instructor, a tactical instructor for Officer Candidate School for the Washington Army National Guard.
Well, that's excellent. So were you in some kind of, in your either high school or your college years, were you in some kind of accelerated program where, or ROTC, where you entered the Army as an E3?
I became a mom really young. I was a 16-year-old mother, and I was very good at school. So I just had that hiccup, I guess, in life. And I did some college because I wanted to better my position for my children. By the time I joined the Army, I already had 3 kids. And I had, I guess, 60 or 70 hours of college already that I was paying for as I went along. And so I was able to join because I had some college credits. I was 22 when I joined.
Oh, very good. Very good. So the next logical question for me is, what made you decide to go from enlisted to OCS?
The challenge of it, I think, and then the ability to lead. I've always kind of been just a natural leader from the time I was really young. Any sports I played, I always ended up being team captain or president of my class, or on and on and on. So it's just kind of a natural leader people looked up to and wanted to come to for advice. And so I had the opportunity to do that because the adjutant position in the unit I was in was a constant revolving door for the pilots. So they would come in, I was in an aviation unit, they would come in to S1, get their foot in the door, then they would go get their flight line position, and then that job would be open again. And so my command team came to me and asked if it was something I was interested in, and then that would be my job when I got through OCS. Great idea, not how the plan actually came to fruition, but I still took the opportunity and I went to accelerated OCS down at Alabama Military Academy, which is actually the home of the WAC at Fort McClellan, Alabama. A really tough 60-day class, but I was really inspired to keep going. I felt like I was literally riding on the backs of these amazing women who had come before me to keep me motivated. If they could do it, I could do it. And it was a really great experience.
Great, thanks for answering that. And just to let you know, I served in the Women's Army Corps from 1968 to 71, and things were certainly different when I was in, because, you know, it's great to see the changes in the military. It's also great to see that all the combat arms have been opened up to women. because now the women in the military are doing things that when I was in, we only dreamed about. We had no idea that women would be able to go to the military academies, to the service academies, West Point, Annapolis, all of that. I mean, that was a huge game changer. So in my day, as an example, if you had children, if you became pregnant, you were not allowed to serve. You were medically discharged. If you were married,
Wow.
you were medically, you had to choose marriage or your military career. This was in the late 60s, early 70s. So to see the progress just since that time of women that the military realizes, I think somewhere they had the aha moment that they were letting too many of the best and the brightest out on, oh, they got married, well, it's time for them to leave. Well, if the men can be married, why can't the women be married? So anyway, the military has come to their senses, and it's one of the few places in our society where women are paid equally what the men are paid according to their skill set. So would you like to answer to that? Not
Shellie
really
has
a
a great
question,
response.
but just a comment.
Yeah, she probably has a great response to the pay gap, but I wanted to say, I think they finally realized, like, maybe they thought women couldn't serve two masters, you know, that whole thing, it's money or God, like, you couldn't serve your husband and serve in the military, like, we had to decide, like, we weren't capable of doing such a thing, so I'm saying that kind of facetiously, but I am glad that, you know, we've come a long way. I think we still have a lot of culture change and shift to do within the military as a whole, but women are a combat multiplier. We see a different angle of the battlefield, and I really feel like women can complement our male counterparts in such a beautiful way that we're not competing against each other, but we complement each other, and where we could finally shift the culture to all of us thinking that way, I think we'll see the military be even that much more greater of a powerhouse than they already are.
And since you said that, I also think that that will be a generational change, because I also think the military is a place where no matter your sex, no matter your race, it's supposed to be your ability. Is one of the few places where everybody is supposedly created equal. But in society, we all know it's not equal. But the military is the great equalizer in that regard, showing that everybody can work together and accomplish the mission. And Shellie, you look like you wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I'm just in agreement with everything that you're saying. It is the great equalizer. It does, I mean, we could talk forever about pay gaps and challenges in that way, but that's outside of the military. But it also can be an enabler. It's an equalizer, but it also is an enabler.
That's an interesting thought. You know, what you were saying too is that it doesn't matter what your sex is or what your race is or what level of education you have. When you are time and service, time and grade, that's what you get paid.
Yep.
But, you know, to do the job, to have it dress, I think that's where the Army really gets it right. Because I don't care what you look like, but if your pack looks like mine, and I know if I'm in danger, I can go to your right pocket and get out that tourniquet. You know, so that's like really, you know, dumbing it down and breaking it down to like very little. But if you know the same soldier who is in your rank and your structure has the same training you have, you know that you guys could go out and execute the mission. And I think they do that beautifully. Other things we have some working on to do, but that's really what it comes down to, is, you know, the person to your left and to your right is equipped like you are to do the same.
And it sets standards that are, it really does, it standardizes the format. So, you know, when you're moving, that line moves together. So you know that you're walking, regardless of who you are, to what Kerri just said, you know that you can rely on that individual that's on your left and your right. You're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about race. You're not thinking about any of that. You're thinking about the fact that we're all in this together. And it does create a community of camaraderie and a depth in support. And so knowing that regardless of whatever it is that you're going through, you have that left and right limit of support there for you in a way that I think it's interesting, because I always have to, differentiate between, I can speak for the Army because I know what the Army does very, very well. And I don't seem to always hear all of those great things about other branches. I know that all branches serve and support well, but I love the way the Army, to Kerri's point, just gets it right as far as building community and camaraderie, and really finding the balance between how we blend the lines and work together.
Well, you live and die by your team.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it all comes down to teamwork, especially when you're out in the battlefield. Now, I was never in a battle situation. I did 201 files basically, but like I said, I wouldn't trade my military experience for anything because it gave me the life that I have. I have a pretty nice life. So, what are you doing now, Shellie, and what are you doing now, Kerri? Now, are you two partnered in the freedom?
We do group projects, yes.
we have several collaborations.
Several
together. We have
collaborations.
individual things, and then we definitely have some collaborations. So
yes, we do.
Well, can you tell me, since we see in the background Freedom Sisters, Kerri, we'll start with you on this. How did you come up with that idea? Why did you come up with that idea? Now, this might be a loaded question. I'm going to ask a whole bunch of questions because I really kind of like the stream of consciousness answers. And then we'll switch over to Shellie so she can tell us what she's doing now since she got out of the military. So go ahead, Kerri.
So I think the vision for Freedom Sisters started back when I competed for Miss Veteran America and won in 2015. I stepped into an act of obedience in my faith to go and compete in that arena. And when I went back and competed, so that was my second time competing, I really did build a network, and I really did fall in love with my sisters of service. And not just, the ones who were doing good, but all of them, every single one who served. It gave me a whole different perspective on that woman who has that selfless servant heart, who wants to do better, who wants to live better, who wants to live on purpose. And I really just fell in love with my sisters. And so fast forward 3 years later, there was a pause, or my time in the wilderness, and just really connecting to God and saying, what do you have for me? Because in that 3 years, I became a mom again of 2 more children. I got remarried and I left the Army. And I felt like I left my sisters, but I still had this yearning on my heart to serve them and to give them a place to speak and give them a voice. And so I went to bed on Valentine's Day of all days, like the day of love. So this is like an amazing gift of love. And I went to bed actually not full of love. I went to bed very sad and depressed and open-handed, open-hearted, like crying out to God, like, you called me to this. I know you've called me to do something for my sisters. What is it? And I went to bed and just thought I'd sleep it off, and feel better in the morning. Well, I woke up in the middle of the night to a voice telling me freedomsisters.com. And so I picked up my phone and I saw freedomsisters.com was available for purchase. And I didn't jump on it right away. I was a little taken aback that it was even available, because those are 2 very high. If you're anywhere in the SEO world or the SaaS world, that freedom and that sisters are a highly searched thing in Google. And so I sat on it for 4 months until my husband was like, I'll give you the money to buy the domain, because I kept talking about it. And he's like, I'll just give you the money. Let's just do it. And so what it came to, I didn't know what it was going to manifest to be. And then I was like, okay, telling stories, and I love to talk to people, and I loved my time as a PAO. And so I was really listening to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, I could do that. I could talk to people. So I had to learn all the techie stuff, and I launched the podcast, where it's a place where sisters in service gather to talk about their hardships and victories and everything in between. We talk about faith, we talk about spiritual healing, but really it's to inspire and empower somebody listening, another sister that hears her story, to say, okay, she did this, I can do this, I'm not alone. And there's been such a beautiful, real healing in the sisterhood. I feel like there's an awakening to collaboration instead of the competition that we're so used to. And really just this place of showing up authentically for who you are and representing the diversity and the collective voice in a unified way. And so since then, we've gone on to develop some partnerships to do live events, and we're getting ready to launch a magazine, which is also a collaboration of all women contributors, and so women veteran contributors. And so I'm really excited about, Shellie and I call it Flex Space, and that's from a preacher that we both love. And it's really a place where God is on the move, and I'm just answering, I'm saying yes, and I'm serving my sisters well. And that's really, I guess, it all in a nutshell. Kind of long-winded, but that's what it's all about.
Sometimes the best things that happen to you is a spur of the moment decision that you make, and it changes your life forever. And you just described that. So, Shellie, what would you like to add to that?
Wow. So mine's is kind of in the reverse. So, when I transitioned out, when I retired in 2013, my husband and I retired 6 months apart. So he retired in 2012, myself for 2013. And we just had some decisions to make about what we wanted to do. But along the journey, what we found out is that, or what I realized about myself is that I never stopped. When I retired after serving my country for so long and then trying to figure out who I am and what I wanted to do, I just went from one career to another. I got hired, I was still on terminal leave, and I never stopped. I never stopped. And when I got hired, the water hose was on, and there were so many things rising up in me that I just did not know were there, because women serve and suppress at the same time. We don't get a chance to actually address our emotions while we're serving. We don't really get a chance to kind of check in. So along that journey, I realized while I was doing all of this professional outreach work and assisting other service members find new careers after service, I didn't get to do that really for myself. I can teach you how to negotiate. I can teach you how to sell. I can teach you how to do all of that. I never stopped to do any of that for me. And so along the way, I had some bumps in the road. I hit some walls, and I didn't know who I was. I didn't love my body. I didn't understand all these challenges. And from all of this work that I was doing, that's where Redefining You Foundation was birthed. It was created specifically to address those challenges that women veterans face when we separate from service, because no one prepares us for the personal challenges. We're so busy finding careers. We're so busy trying to get you to the next big career opportunity to make six figures or whatever it is, help you start a business, but we're not necessarily focusing on the healing aspect of the things that you didn't get to actually deal with while you were serving. And you are a woman, so you don't get to identify with that. You're right, sex isn't in your gender isn't in the conversation, but when it's time for you to address gender beyond what your biology says that you have to address, you get to, who am I as a woman? I mean, I joined the Army at 18. I've lived my entire adult life through some major experiences that nobody else, unless they joined the military, has lived through like me. And my trajectory to adulthood was fast and furious. You're around people that you normally, and in situations you normally wouldn't think you would be in, not living your life as an 18-year-old, right? So all of that, fast forward, having to figure out who she is when she retired from service and what she wanted to do. So I knew that if I was having breakdowns, if I was having challenges, if I was trying to address the things that were challenging to me and what was bubbling up and resonating with me, other women who were separating from service were going through that same thing. And I also incorporated military spouses in that, because sometimes you can be serving and then become the spouse and forget you served. Like you will completely desensitize yourself from that time and you won't think about it. Or even as a spouse, you're serving too. So you also left behind who you were to join in this fight alongside your service member. And now you're also transitioning out and leaving a whole culture and community. So that has happened, and we were, I started it, and like Kerri, it was interesting. I was on a flight and I had to come up with a name. I was working on a project, but God said that that project wasn't for you to do for someone else. It was for you to do for yourself. I've been waiting on you to birth this, and now I'm going to force you to do it because we couldn't get out of hosting the event. So while I was on a flight to DC, I came up with a name, Redefining Your Future, and the rest is history. I did it, and I started a business. I didn't look back. I told my husband, hey, I started a business, and then I turned it into a nonprofit for service. And that's really where it came from, identifying that if my story isn't mine alone. And then also fast forward, being able to connect with other women in the community and really being able to hear their stories and assist them through their own walk and challenges. That's my, that's what I found myself gifted at doing, and being able to help you have hard conversations with yourself, really being accountable for things that you need to really, activate and things that you need to do. And then here I am, fast forward, I meet this wonderful woman right here, and we connected on a spiritual level, and there was no tit for tat or quid pro quo for us. We just kind of merged together. She showed up for me, I've shown up for her, and then fast forward, here I am running and competing for Miss Fair in America 2020. And, so this has just been a very interesting journey, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I know that was a lot.
No, but I think we're all in our own ways trying to figure out how do we empower not just ourselves, but also other women. And when I started the VHVtv a long time ago, it was really the reason I started was to get veterans to come into our office so we could educate them on their benefits. If they were looking for a job, we'd help them find a job. If they were looking for training, we put them into a training program. If they didn't fill those two slots, we tried to find a way to outreach to them, because a lot of times you didn't see them again. But I was going to say something and I completely thought it and forgot it. We're all doing the same thing in a way, just variations of a theme, I guess, is the way we're approaching it. So Shellie and Kerri, because you said you were Miss Vet America in 2015, and now Shellie, you're actually in that, I don't want to say contest, pageant.
Competition,
yeah, competition, better word.
It's a competition.
So you're in that competition now, and I know the story of Miss Vet America, but I would like for you, Kelly, to tell one, why you decided to go in that as a contestant. Is that the right word? As a competitor, and how it helps other women veterans. And then I'm going to ask you the same question, Shellie, because I'm looking at here Kerri did that 5 years ago, and she got the crown. So how did that change your life, and how did it make it better for other women veterans?
Yeah, so I think how it changed my life was, like I said, it was an act of obedience for my spiritual walk. But what it did is it softened some of my edges. I was a pretty hard charger. I still am, but I've learned to soften my edges a little bit and be okay with the fact that I'm both woman and warrior, and that I can be strong, but yeah, I can be a feminine. I can be feminine as well. And so it really helped that, because you're always in this state, and it could just be my personality, where I felt like I had to compete and I had to prove myself over and over, and I had to show up in a really big way to show that, like, I'm little, but my personality had to be pretty big to show that I was fierce, just as fierce as my male counterparts. And what it did for me was really bring a different perspective as well on women who served, and the different, Shellie calls it visuals, but just seeing the vast difference of each and every one. They're very individual, different women who are serving, but they all have the commonality of service, selfless service, or that call to service in their heart. And so it gave me just a different perspective. And then two, to learn, like really what catapulted me into competing was to learn that we were the fastest growing homeless population in our country, that the plight of women, there was no resources. They didn't even start counting homeless female veterans until 2010. Mm-hmm. And we had been serving for a lot longer than that. So the fact, that there was this just huge ramp up. And then when you merge culture and the lack of resources together, where now you have a ton of women who are single moms raising kids, and now they step out of that military service. So the gap pay is a real thing, and they can't make ends meet, and then they find themselves homeless. Well, you're also mothering, was just heartbreaking to me. I was a mom. Like I said, I had 3 kids when I competed, and you're caught in a rock and a hard place. And so I just didn't, it doesn't resonate with me well. Anybody who serves this country, it's a human issue. Homelessness is obviously a human issue in our country. And we need to really, if we can tell our stories and doing what we're doing and help people heal from the inside out and not just put Band-Aids on things, I think is where we're going to really see the shift. And again, that's a culture thing. That's a human thinking, mindset change. But that's really what I learned, and that's why I competed. And since then, I've just been really passionate about supporting women who are doing things. It may not look exactly the way that I would do it, but it's still important to support them and to encourage them and to help them. So that's just where my heart is on the whole issue. And that's where I am now with Freedom Sisters. It's like I want to support and amplify women veterans in a way that we haven't seen before. Through our stories, no one can speak for us. We can only speak for ourselves. And I guess that answers the question.
So true.
Yes.
And Shellie, would you like to elaborate on that?
Man, so she hit on so many great points, Kerri did. For me, I could not have thought of another great way to continue advocating for women veterans. You don't realize, you usually think that you're in it by yourself. And so what I've realized on this journey that got me to this competition was that so many women who have served and who are still suffering and wandering really thought that they've been on this journey alone. And until you can really get a captivating audience in whatever way you can, to let them know that they are not in this alone, and that there is a support system, there is a way for you to have a better, thriving life, the more opportunities that I have to avail myself to unmute my voice and use that to advocate, to inform, to educate, this to me just made sense. It's another way, one, for me to learn about some more even deeper rooted issues that I thought I knew about and I thought that I had a grasp on, but I've learned so much more through this journey. I've learned a lot about other women in this competition right now with me. We're all going through this moment. We're not in the same boat, but we're in the same storm. But we all have found a way to push the mission of Final Salute Inc. forward so that everyone understands that it's great that there's a lot of firsts. We want the first to become a norm. We want the world to acknowledge that we are an underrepresented demographic within a demographic. We are less than the 1% that serve. And our numbers deserve to be counted. And so I just could not think of a better way to be able to have a platform to really activate and galvanize voices. Also, what was really important and what's really happened to me is I've been able to birth other things, and so like, I really do know that my voice and the ability to create opportunities for others to speak is a part of my journey. And so being able to work hand in hand with other women and collaborate who are in service still after they've come out of boots, it just makes sense, and it's in alignment. It is a divine alignment and assignment. I know that I'm not competing in this competition by mistake, and if nothing else, I know that my voice is being heard and that there is a need out there for me to continue to have the crucial conversations and to inform the world for as much as I can about the great needs and the unique challenges that our women veterans face.
I think the thing that really resonates with what all three of us are doing is instead of suffering in silence, we realized we suffered and then we spoke up about it. And I can tell you when I finally spoke up about some of the depression and mental health stuff that I was having, it was like this lift, it was this freeing, this was just like so opening. And then it had no control over me anymore because I was able to put a voice to what I was feeling and a voice to what I was suffering. And then I've been able to bring other people into that fold to offer them freedom too, which I mean, my name has multiple levels of meaning, and that's one of them. It's like when you can walk together in the freedom of the healing that your soul needs, you know, that's what we're doing. That's what Shellie's doing. That's what you're doing. That's what I'm doing. And instead of, you know, being a part of the statistic of 22 a day, when we put out that we need a helping hand, we're not weak. It's actually a very great strength to say you need help. You know, we are all, and we're all in this together. Like if my buddy is having a bad day, when we were in boots and camouflage, like what did you do? You came up alongside of them, supported them, and you let them lean on you. Just because you left that, you no longer wear United States Army on my uniform doesn't mean that I've left you behind.
Right.
We very much are ingrained in that warrior ethos. And so if you are having a hard time, reach out to that community because we're here for you. And there's so many of us that are stepping up to realizing that now in a big way, but we want to be the leaders in it because we really do value all of our sisters who serve.
Kerri, are you going to be, you haven't actually published your magazine yet. Is it going to be a digital magazine or is it going to be hard copy?
The intention is to be an app. You can find it on iTunes or Google Play with a web-based platform as well. So if the phone is too small a font for our older sisters, then they'll have a bigger font that they could read. I do not intend on going print at this time, just because there's the balance of what it costs to print and what the subscription would be. So if there was a shift in that later and a need, I would definitely consider. But to go out of the gate, it's going to be an app. It's going to be it's going to be interactive, inspiring and innovative. So we have not seen anything like this in our community yet. And I'm super excited for how we're going to be literally amplify. If you are an author, I want to have you in my magazine with a click back to sell your book. If you are a public speaker and that's what you do, you motivate others to live life well, I want you in the magazine. Click back to your website to book you as a speaker. If you blog, if you podcast, if you have a shop, I want to highlight you. And then also just like really big game changers in our community, big time founders, big time leaders, whether you're nonprofit or for-profit, women who are doing those things post-service, and then have a little bit of a mentorship column, a little bit of ask column, and it's going to be a mixture of business, life, and encouragement and advice with tangible things that women who served can take away and also know how to give back and how to support other women who are providing services or resources or products. So it's all around. It's just like love this way, love up and love down and all around. So I'm super excited about it.
Yes.
Well, that sounds exciting to me and a fresh take on a way of telling our stories, because I've had many people say to me, well, why don't you just do a podcast, Sheryl? It would be a whole lot easier than doing video. Well, I've been doing video for a long time, and I really like doing the video because what I look for when I'm having a authentic conversation with people is their reaction, is the zen of the conversation. So we've all are trying to figure out, look, I'm 72 years old. I'm stuck in my house. I mean, I'm stuck. I go out for groceries. I go out for medical reasons. Other than that, it's me and the dog, okay? And I just can't leave. I have to do something creative. And for me, the VHVtv is the way I can create, because it gives me something to do. I'm not a writer per se, although at one point in my life I did want to be a journalist, but I don't, just for me, I don't read the way that I used to. I don't read books the way I used to. I went from reading books to more visual, more watching more movies, watching more TV. And of course, now that we're all stuck in our homes, we're all addicted to Netflix and all that streaming. So I'm learning as I go, and I just got to keep doing what I'm doing because I have to have some kind of creative outlet. So when the pandemic hit in early March, I was really at a point where I thought I was going to have to give up the TV show because I couldn't get to the studio. We normally tape the VHVtv, Shellie, and the state-of-the-art HD studio at the Mid-Peninsula Media Center in Palo Alto. But they closed it to community producers. I'm a volunteer, I'm a community producer, so I couldn't get to the studio. So in early March, I had a Zoom call, and once I discovered the Zoom, I said, oh, there's a way you can continue to create content. So, Shellie, let's talk more about what you're doing as well in your community. And also the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the importance of joining veteran service organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And are you members of veteran service groups?
Yes.
And what do you do within those groups? And how have I've been a lifetime member of AMVETS for, I don't know, since I think the mid-90s. I'm a member of the Hollywood American Legion Post. Love the American Legion for what they do. The American Legion was in partnership with the VFW when they created the GI Bill for education in the 40s. So I went to college on the GI Bill. It changed my life. It changed every life of every veteran I ever met that went to college on the GI Bill. So that's the power of the group. So that's part of what I also wanted to talk to you about, was being a woman veteran, getting involved in a veteran service organization, because we still have a disconnect between the good old boys club and what women veterans are trying to do within their respective communities. So Shellie, I see you nodding and agreeing. So can you speak to that? And then Kerri, you as well.
Well, I just recently joined VFW Post 2224. Because of COVID, I haven't gone out to the meetings or anything yet. I'm just 2 months in. I joined 2 months ago when I went to do an outreach event with Fob Hope, and they were out there because we were at another VFW Post. And we've been talking about this. I've been talking about it for a long time, but you know, you want to be involved in something that is more than just being a member on paper. But the optics aren't great, right? So one of the, you know, and we always say, you know, we want to be the change. We want to, you know, be the change and be involved. And a lot of things are just let's just be honest. It's a lot of white male, you know, dominated. And so I looked on the Zoom call for our last meeting and I said, okay, so now when I do get to go in person, at least now I know what it's going to look like when I walk in there. That's an affirmation. And you know, it's great. But being involved with veteran service organizations, so I have my own veteran service organization, and we provide a service through our symposiums, but we are catalysts for connection. We are good partners. So one of the things that we just talked about, and I talked about it earlier today, it's really about being a good partner in your community. So you can either be volunteering, and you can volunteer, or if you have your own organization, resources are lean for VSOs. So we all have the same desire to serve our military community, right? And so finding alignment and being able to leverage resources has always been key to me. How do you align and how do you leverage resources? Dealing with the work that I do in workforce development it also was very clear to us that if we did not break down silos, there would always be this competitive nature that the veteran service organizations themselves would have. And so on these last 8 years post-retirement, it has just been very, it's been a mission of mine and many others to make sure that whenever we do anything, we do it from a place of wanting to partner and build community. So there aren't a lot of women veterans out there who look like me sitting at tables representing the military community. And I've been in positions where I've been in the room and I've had my other either female or male veteran counterparts, but they're not acknowledging me in the room as a Black woman who is a veteran who served. The optics are just bad. We have to change the optics. And so the advantage that I believe that I have, because I do have the opportunities of sitting at some very important tables and being in some very important rooms, is that I am the change. I am not invisible. I serve too. So in my introduction and everything that I do, and when I'm talking to other women, make sure that you carry the fact that you're a veteran. Your service is over in boots, but you continue to serve by doing exactly what you just said. Find a veteran service organization that you want to serve with, volunteer for, be a part of, but also make sure that you also carry that, wave your flag, girl. Let them know that you serve too. They need to know, beyond any campaign that we could ever do, the voice that we have to talk about being women who served, and for many of us women of color who serve, to change the optics, the narrative. The photo stock doesn't give us due diligence. We have the same photo stock flying around, and that's not good enough. We need more. We need better. We need to be able to let them know we served in the most diverse workforce in the world, and that we were a part of that. And so being a part of veteran service organizations and trying to change that stigma, that's still going on. That good old boy network and those things, that's still happening in some of those very legacy organizations. And that might be why it's so challenging for them to recruit people, but it's not everywhere and it's not happening for everyone. Sometimes it's even regional. So find a place where you fit in. I was drawn to the VFW because when I returned from Desert Storm, we lived in Garland, Texas, and North Dallas, and my mom went to the VFW and they threw a party. So I was kind of drawn to the VFW always. And so that's where I've decided to put my membership and activity, but it's not the only place that I am.
Thank you, Shellie. And you, Kerri?
So I'm a member of the Women Veterans Alliance. I'm a member of American Legion, and I'm also a member of the VFW. And I'm at post 5878. I'm the judge adjutant, which is just something really on paper, and I get a vote, which is kind of fun. But what I've noticed in our VFW specifically is, like, my husband's 46, and everyone closest to him are, 80, late 70s or 80 years old that are showing up to help other veterans. And so when they go to move rock, guess who's moving it? It's just my husband moving it, or me and my husband, or whatever, because there's just not the able bodies. So it's like, we need to figure out how to not necessarily rebrand, because I think what the VFW is doing and has always done has been a very good advocate for veterans, for championing, laws and protections of all who serve. And I think it's a beautiful thing. When I competed for Miss Veteran America, oddly enough, the VFW was the #1 place that gave me money time and time again. I would go to different posts. I would talk about Miss Veteran America. I would talk about homeless women veterans. And these men, they were all room full of men, unless I was talking to the auxiliary, were like, absolutely not okay for our sisters. And I think there's just this incredible affection for one another who have served. And I just love that about the VFW. So it's always been a very welcoming experience for me, even though they are a lot older than I am. But I love what the VFW stands for. And I think us that have served post 9/11, we really need to get involved in the VFW. If you want it to look different or talk different, then you got to show up and participate in order to carry on the legacy, but also change the narrative, if you will. And I think they're all very important organizations. And I really love the Women Veterans Alliance, because they're giving a voice to women in a different way, and they're really just supporting women And Melissa Washington is one of the best connectors. And
Mm-hmm.
oddly enough, well, I had emailed Shellie, but it got bounced back. But it's really because Melissa Washington had known both of us and knew we were both in Washington.
Oh, and I'm in the Women Veterans Alliance too. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, she connected us. And so,
Yes.
yeah, it was like, so because of her networking and creating this organization,
Mhm.
it has brought women together to do amazing things for our sisters. And so I think
Yeah.
it's very important to also, as a woman veteran, be a part of a women veteran BSO as
Yep.
well, in addition to those legacy ones, because we deserve to be
Mhm.
at both tables.
Yeah, and we can speak to all the needs, but the way you create network, it's like a system, and it just work, and you find yourself meeting some amazing women doing some great work.
Well, I met Melissa Washington about 4 or 5 years ago up in San Francisco at the Marines Memorial Club, and we were at a Vets and Tech event. And I know the moment that I met her and the moment that she met me, we knew that we were going to work together. And for the last 3 unconferences, she has given me the opportunity to film the Veterans in Media and Entertainment Women Veterans Alliance panels. Now, these are women that the first 2 panels with the BME are women veterans that are working in the industry, very willing and able to give advice to the younger women veterans who want to go into that industry. And then last October at the Women Veterans Alliance and Conference in Monterey, I filmed their book panel, which is an awesome book panel with all women veteran authors. So we're all trying to figure out how to tell our stories, because they need to be told, number one, and number two, people need to understand the sacrifices that all of us in one way or another have made in order to serve our country, but also to make it better for our sister veterans.
Sheryl, just like you said, when you met Melissa Washington, you two knew you were going to work together. And that's exactly the moment I physically met Shellie. And she was so excited. Like, she has this amazing energy about her, especially when she's getting ready to speak on stage or what have you. But she just like saw me, we said our names, and she just had this beautiful warm smile and this amazing hug. And from that moment, we were just like, yep, we are in this together. And that first night I met her, I was like, I don't dance really that well.
You want to get on stage?
But she's like, you want to be a part of this? Here's a t-shirt. And so for her intro, like from the gate, literally from the moment we met, we started working together and supporting each other. And I knew of her and I knew of her organization. And I was there to kind of, do my research and hear what she had to say firsthand, to get her onto the podcast. So I could be, so I was there for that reason. But then when I met her, it was like, oh yeah, there's something way bigger between Shellie and I than just her coming onto the podcast. And it really has become such an amazing partnership and sisterhood, and just a beautiful friendship that has blossomed out of supporting each other.
Do you live close to each other?
No,
Washington State.
About an hour. We did live closer, but we bought a home and moved up north a little bit, so I'm a little further away from her than I would have been.
She's convinced though, so that's good.
Yeah, and I mean, from that connection that we made, I have to, give a shout out to Kerri. She had a vision about something, and you're not hesitant when you connect with someone and you want to support what they're doing. I'm like, oh yeah, I was kind of thinking of something like that, but let's run with that. So Shero Talk has been born from this collaboration, and Shero Talk is just, oh my goodness, it was just an amazing experience. We went through a lot to make that happen, and Kerri, her vision for it was, I don't have no words for it, but these are the things that happen when you can collaborate and really, I guess, make a huge, it's almost, I can't even, the word isn't coming to me, but what's the word that I need for this moment? When you can really magnify something.
Maximize.
Yes, and maximize the opportunity and impact that you can cover. So I'm excited about the things that we are going to be doing together. And Shero Talk, it was our first real collaborative effort.
So elaborate and tell me what Shero Talk is. Is that a radio program?
Do you, I would love for it to be turned into a radio program. What it is a live event where you have 8 women come in and share 8 minutes of their story around a theme we have created. And so although we are 2 women veterans, we wanted to expand our reach and include our sisters outside of the military, outside of the veteran community, who are doing amazing things in their communities, in their industries, in their homes, in their churches, in sports. So we really wanted to open the doors to receive other women who are making amazing changes for our society. Mm-hmm. And so each year we're going to have a different theme. The first inaugural event was freedom, and the stories, we had 8 very different stories from freedom from grief, freedom from body image, freedom from being yourself, a Black gay woman. Like, she spoke her story of freedom. We had our matriarch, Diane. She's in her 70s, and she came and she talked about her freedom from abuse and figuring out herself. And there were so many beautiful moments in all of that. And it was just so amazing. And we were able to make some money, right? And but bigger. So really the part of it that's so special to us was the fact that we want to give back to our women veteran community by reaching out our hands to a bigger population. And so we will pick a women veteran led nonprofit every year to give a portion of the proceeds back to. And this year we were able to raise $625 for Final Salute, which is what Miss Veteran America advocates for. And we chose that for obvious reasons. There was this connection for us both, but Shellie is currently running, and so we wanted to help her with her fundraising campaign as well. And it was just able to put all these things in a melting pot and create something so beautiful. Shero Talk itself was, we were talking about what we wanted the event name to be, and we talked about Empower Hour. We were just like throwing things, we were like, that's too much. Yes. And again, I do my best thinking, and I open up my mind and I open up my heart right as I'm going to bed, and I just kind of meditate. And we talked about design, and I went to bed and I had the vision of this R that I Googled the snot out of to make sure it was an original idea. But the R is actually looks like Rosie the Riveter. Yes. And I'll make sure you get that logo. And so the R is, her face is the head, and then the tail of the R is her flexing. And we were able to create it, and I designed that logo as well. And we were able to create everything around that because, she speaks to every woman. Like, she is an iconic image for so many, not just the military women, but all women, that you can do it. And so we really just leveraged that. And then deeper still, we found out the true woman who is really behind the Rosie poster, the Ionic poster. And so her story we even share on Shero Talk's website. And that's just like a foundational point that we were making. Like, you need to speak your story so we know the full history. And it just was like affirmation for what we were doing. And it is a live event, so we do want to meet face-to-face in person, have, drinks and food and a whole event. But because of COVID, we shifted hardcore and we stayed true to the mission, and we went all virtual. So we recorded, we had a recording day for all of our speakers, and then we went live and did a full production. And so the learning curve was steep, but it was a very successful event, and we did it all with 3 of us. So Eve, who is not represented in this conversation, definitely was a part of the group project and ensuring its success. And I'm so excited for what next year's going to be.
And it's still available on sherotalk.com. You can still purchase it and watch those amazing stories. Watch Kerri and I's banter back and forth. We had a really, really good time. And I'm excited about 2021. It's going to bring out more stories, more boldness, more courage than ever before. So each year, I know it's going to be just better and better, or in my drill sergeant voice, gooder and gooder.
Yeah, it's such a cool event. I can't wait. I can't wait to meet in person though. And we call the ladies of this year our founding mothers, and we want them to come back whenever we are able to go face to face. So if you're able to come to that one, where you're going to get a double dose of amazing, phenomenal women in that room, and it's going to be pretty remarkable.
Definitely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I don't know how long we've been talking, but we've been talking for quite a while.
About an hour.
About an hour. Yeah.
So is there any closing comments that you would like to make? Kerri, I actually met you online. I want to say, I think it was about a year ago where you actually contacted me and to do one of your podcasts, I think. And for one reason or the other, I wasn't able to do it. But I'm really happy we finally connected, and thank you, Shellie, for because we talked a couple of weeks ago, and you said, "Yeah, do you know Kerri?" I said, "Actually, I never met her, but we have met online." So thank you for being the catalyst for bringing this together.
What she's good at. Shellie is good at what she does.
So here's your chance for closing comments. What would you? Here's a question I love to ask all women veterans. Do you have daughters?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You both have daughters. Yes. So if they come up to you and they say to you, "Mom, I think I want to join the military, the Army, or whatever branch," doesn't really matter which. It's just
Army.
Okay, but go Army. I get it. I joined because my mother was in. So what would you say? What would you say to your daughter about joining the Army?
You want to go first?
Good choice for you. First. So Kerri, why don't we go with you and then we'll close with you, Shellie?
Okay. Oh man, so I think if I could put my ego aside, I think initially I would say no, if I'm very honest. But then, yeah, just because it's a scary time, I think. And I don't think that I don't know. Hold on. I want to start all over because I do think I would say no initially, but like, here's like my bigger message. I cannot jump on board with this no justice, no enlistment piece. So if I'm going to advocate for this younger generation now to join because of the legacy they get to step into, I would be a hypocrite to tell my kids no. Although my mother's heart wants to protect them and say, maybe not, maybe we should talk about other opportunities, right? But here's the thing, real change, culture change, big shifts don't happen until you have 30% minority in an organization. And that's our society, period. And I cannot say, do not go enlist or do not serve in the military, because we have come so far from Molly Pitcher days, through civil rights movement, through women not having to get kicked out because they're pregnant or married. We have come so far, but we're not quite there. We're so close. We're like at 17, 18%. We're so close. So yes, serve, join this amazing lineage, this heritage that you are just the tip of the iceberg of getting to know, because we are now sharing our stories boldly. And I absolutely would say do it, to honor the women who came before you and to be that bridge and the hand up for those who are coming behind you. It only gets better and better if we continue to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well said.
And I would say, you know, my mother's heart is just like Kerri's, you know, and we would always say, you know, we served so you didn't have to, but if serving is what you want to do, I really want them to take the avenue that is going to give them the opportunity to give her an opportunity to have some level set authority and power. She's educated, and I would want her to definitely go in as an officer, being able to be an example for other young women of color that, you know, not that being enlisted is bad, it's great, but being able to see there's more than just that. You can go in as an officer, you have options, you are educated, you can do great things. Go in and use your voice. knowing that the work that we've all done, all three of us have done, yes, they stand on our shoulders, but they can't just stand there. They have to activate and understand that we have worked so hard to give them voice. And so if they are in that moment, they have the courage to be able to recognize and stand up for those things that are unjust and not right, and that they understand the authority that they hold. That I would also tell her that while she is serving, that her example, her ability to be an example is powerful. There's some little girl, some little Black or brown girl wanting to know if it's possible. So she would be yet another beacon of hope and light, letting them know that it's possible. And for all women and for all girls, it is very important that we know that the role that we play and the authority that we hold, the power that we hold, and to embrace that, to use that with grace, to use that with love and wisdom, and to always to seek out understanding, wisdom and understanding as you grow through the ranks. So that would be my message to her if she wanted to serve.
Man, and wouldn't it be such a thing to have a woman president, all your top generals in every branch be women? Like, I don't know, like that sounds pretty dang cool. And it's very possible because they are, I mean, we prove ourselves the ability to do these things. And I think that would just be so cool. Like, I don't know.
Everything's possible. Yeah, everything is possible. Our daughters they're seeing us do what we're doing now. Kerri's daughter, she's going to have her own podcast segment in no time. My daughter, she's a STEM giant, and she's doing some great things in science, and this whole situation is her sweet spot. She's about to go off and do great things. I don't think whatever it is, whether they just decide to serve or not, they have the ability and opportunity now to go well beyond what we were able to do. And that's because of what we did. And I think that's what matters.
That's a perfect ending for the show. Thank you so very much for the opportunity to tell your stories. And thank you for being shining examples of moving onward, upward, and forward, because that's all we can do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was fun.
This was fun.
It was. I'll be in touch with you because I'm going to ask for if you have B-roll and you want to give me some B-roll, I'd like to insert that in. I don't know how long it's going to take me to do this edit, but I will. I do community educational access. I don't make money at this. I'm not doing it for money. I'm really trying to do it for outreach. This is my way of being creative. So it will be on the Media Center channels first, and then once it's done, and then I get it uploaded to my YouTube channel. So once again, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate you ladies. Appreciate knowing you, counting you as my friends.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. That was awesome.